everybody. Welcome to our official first class ever. Woohoo! You made it. We got a lot to do. Let's get started. So to start with, what you need is your melting pot, your ultra thick embossing enamel, your paper, your skewers, something to cut your skewers, and something to cut your paper. I'm going to use a small tonic trimmer because that's what works for me. First thing we're going to do is cut our paper. So let's put everything off to the side and go ahead and get your scraps in front of you. If you're using some sort of a material that comes in the mail, or if you're using magazines or newspapers, that's great. Just go ahead and tear out a piece randomly. And I'm going to make cuts at about 4-inch pieces. One. This one's glossy. It's kind of thicker than most newspapers, but it's a good one. 2. Set that aside for a second. For today's class, I'd like to make beads that are about 1.5 inches. When you're using other paper, when you're going to sit down and make beads and you know that you want to use them for a specific project, you might want them smaller, you might want them larger. For learning purposes, just stick with me on the 1.5 inches so that we're all on the same page. Cutting, cutting, cutting. Are you cutting too? Or are you watching? Last piece, you can go ahead and put in cut. You know what? Just tear it. That's fine. You don't have to be crazy when you're cutting your beads. If you want to get tricky with cutting, once you have a rectangular piece of paper, line up the corners, go ahead and cut it at an angle so that you've got some triangle pieces. So we have some straight pieces and we have triangle pieces. I'm going to show you how to wrap both of them, but you absolutely don't need a template. This is just eyeballing about where you're at. If you've got some patterned paper, if you happen to have some in front of you, fantastic. Go ahead and grab a piece. You can see a guy cut some butterflies out of some stuff. Because this is a thicker, heavier weighted paper, I don't need it to be as long, but you'll also notice that it has some writing, which usually if you're making a page or making a card, you'd cut that part off. Don't worry about it. You're going to cover it up. I'm going to leave this at about 3 inches. And let's see, can we get some more out of here? Let's cut off these crazy edges. Got a nice flat surface there. I can cut 3 here. And again, I'm going to go with about 1.5 inches on the pattern paper. And on these, same thing. 1.5 inches. That one's a little bit longer. That's okay. I'll cut it down to 1 inch and 1 inch so that we can get 2 beads out of that one. Okay? Go ahead and work on cutting some of your paper. Make some recycled ones. When you're using recycled materials, we're probably going to cover the whole surface. So if you have some really pretty paper that you want to use, we're not going to use those when we get to colors. But get yourself a nice pile of beads, of scraps, and get a couple of pieces of patterned paper. Go ahead and get a couple pieces, couple triangles if you'd like, and whoop, there we go, a couple of each, and I'm going to show you how you roll them.